a little bit later this week. In fact, the Mets will have a weekend series with the Angels. Speaking of the Angels, they lost again last night thanks to a wonderful performance by Michael Wacha and the Boston Red Sox.
Hold on before the highlight.
Hey, but here's the thing.
Hey, you have to watch.
No. Here's the thing.
Spoiler alert.
People know the results of games. They have the freaking TV in their palm of their hand. You think I'm throwing something they don't already know? This is 2022.
They are relying on us to bring the news.
Exactly.
Good Lord, this isn't 1985, Lauren. By the way, that just shows you how things are going for the Angels. Mike Trout breaks out of a slump, and then next batter, Jared Walsh, lines into a double play. Second inning, Christian Vasquez off Noah Syndergaard, who was very good yesterday. Christian Vasquez brings in Alex Verdugo. Boston takes a 1-0 lead. Bottom of the eighth, Joe Adell facing Michael Wacha. Wacha threw 105 pitches. Not sure that was a strike there, but it worked. It was called strike. Keeps the lead at 1-0 for Boston. All right, bottom of the ninth, Shohei Ohtani. Wacha's still in there. Oh, spoiler alert, in case you haven't heard, Michael Wacha threw a 1-0 shutout against the Angels. It's the first 1-0 shutout by a Red Sox since Curt Schilling back in 2007.
A team that is not dangerous are the Angels, who lose again last night. This time, Michael Wacha goes all the way, 1-0. Good performance by Syndergaard, but to no avail. Trout finally got a hit, to no avail. They only had 3 hits in a game, and the Angels now have lost 12 in a row and 13 of 16, and have put themselves pretty much out of it as far as the American League West is concerned. You're not going to lose 12 straight games in early June in that division with the Astros and turn around and live and talk about it. That's not going to happen. Okay, you're not going to lose 12 in a row, 13 of 16 when you're the Angels and all of a sudden say on June, hey, we're still in it. No, you're not. You're 8-9 games out. No, you're not. You have not had a history of winning here for a long time. There's no reason to believe, if you're an Angel fan, that this is a blip on the screen that come August you'll be right in the mix. You're going to have to show us that before we believe in that. And the Angels right now are just, they can't hit. When it's the same old deal. When they hit, they can't pitch. Witness Sunday. When they pitch, they can't hit. Witness last night. Witnessed that last game, second game of the doubleheader against the Yankees. And then when they do everything right, they pitch pretty well and they hit pretty well, they can't get anybody out in the bullpen. Witness that Toronto series before that. Angels are in major trouble. Red Sox are playing a little better. Red Sox over 500 again, first time in a long time. This is going to be a tricky 2 games for the Angels here this week, and they still got to deal with the Dodgers here down the road. Major problems for the Angel Ball Club as we head to the second third of our season. Alana will talk to Bill Shakin about that here in a moment. It's nice to have with us. Miss Rizzo is going to join us here for a few thoughts. Alana, it's all yours. How are you today, okay?
I'm good. Good afternoon. Here's a thought that I want to put out there. No team has ever had a 12-game losing streak and made the postseason that same year. That's exactly where the Angels are right now. No team has ever done that. So big props to Matt Orso for giving us that little tidbit. But this is a team also, Mad Dog, that relies very much on the long ball. They have 68 home runs this year, 5th most in the majors. And right now, during this terrible stretch that they're in, they're not hitting the long ball either. They're not hitting anything right now. You mentioned they're not hitting when they're pitching. They're not pitching when they're hitting. Right now, they're not doing anything. And we just went through this whole situation with Joe Girardi in Philadelphia that the shoe was going to have to fall and somebody was going to have to be the scapegoat. Not that I would ever want anyone to lose their job, but at what point does Joe Maddon become the change that this team needs? Again, same thing with Philadelphia, who definitely is playing better since the change of the guard there with Joe Girardi being dismissed and Rob Thompson being placed as the interim manager. But I'm not certain that the Angels don't need a new voice. But at this point, what is it going to help? I mean, this is a team that is absolutely scuffling. And all of the teams, if you look back to the history of the game, which I know you know the history better than anybody else, the teams that sustain, the teams that go to the postseason, the teams that win in the postseason are very reliant on good pitching and strong defense. The Angels have neither. And right now, they're not hitting either. And of course, They have the most unique player on the planet in Shohei Ohtani, who's not hitting well, and he's not pitching well either. You said the biggest outing of his career was against the New York Yankees at Yankee Stadium. He did not perform well there. Right now, as a collective, this group is absolutely scuffling. And you're in a division that has the Houston Astros in it, which is a team that doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon other than up. They will win the division once again. They'll probably get back into the World Series. They're going deep into the postseason. This is an Angels team that is scuffling mightily, and something absolutely has to change. I'm not certain Artie Moreno is going to put up with this type of performance anytime. And not to get into the stadium issue, but they have been in a absolute free fall for quite some time now. As far as Service and Dusty Baker is concerned, with the Mariners and the Astros both in that same AL West division, I think that goes back to last year. There was a dust-up last year between Scott Service and Dusty Baker, and remember, the Mariners were none too pleased about the trade of Kendall Graveman over to the Astros for Joe Smith and Abraham Toro prior to that trade deadline. Plus, remember, July of last season, then Astros pitcher Brooks Raley, you can see it here, hit J.P. Crawford shortly after giving up a grand slam in an eventual Mariners 11-8 win. Raley was suspended 3 games, while Baker was suspended 1. So perhaps some bad blood there, but maybe this is exactly what the Mariners need. I don't know, though, if there's enough time as we sit here getting into the second third of the season for them to make up enough ground, especially with the Astros, of course, in that division.
100%. There is some bad blood there. Maybe yesterday put a little fire under Seattle. Let me see how they handle the next 2 games. And the Angels got major problems. You know, Trout can take all the batting practice he wants, and I know that Joe Maddon was waxing poetic because they got at the ballpark yesterday at 12:30 local time, saying one of the 3 greatest players in the history of the sport. Calm down. He's not DiMaggio. He's not Williams. He's not Mays. He's not Aaron. Take it easy. All
right, let me ask you this.
Yeah, I like a little less batting practice, a little more production. That's what I like right now. Go ahead.
I understand. Trout is one of the better players of our generation. Some would argue the best player in our generation. At what point do we start thinking about perhaps a different voice? This is the same argument that we had in Philadelphia, that perhaps a different voice is needed. Maybe it's time to think about the cultures and the places that Joe Maddon has been. Tampa Bay, obviously, he was successful, but that culture was already kind of in place there. Chicago culture kind of already in place there. The Angels, if you talk to players around the league, maybe, for the first year, his mentality and his approach is something that's welcomed, but after a while, that kind of grows tired. So I know that he's been with the Angels for a very long time. He's spent 3 decades in that organization. I know that he's a good baseball man, but why is this situation any different than the Philly situation? Is there somebody else that can maybe turn the tide?
You can make that case. So listen, he did a great job in Tampa. They got to a World Series. The Cubs with Renneria were not ready to win there, so he showed up and they won. So he gets all the credit for that. Nobody's saying that Joe hasn't done a heck of a job. But there comes a point where, maybe you're right. Maybe making a move. Now, I don't know who they have on that staff who can do the job. And remember, it wasn't the general manager.
And that's what we said about Philly. Right. I know. That's what we said about Philadelphia, too. We weren't sure that there was anybody else that was going to be better than Joe Girardi, but then he takes his right-hand man and makes him the interim manager.
Now, you can ask Bill this in a sec. I don't know if there is a Robbie Thompson type there in Anaheim, but remember one thing. The owner is the one who hired Maddon, made the GM fire Ausmus after 1 year, and wanted Maddon to be the skipper. So he can't lay this on the GM. So, hey, figure it out. He brought the manager in, so if he wants to make a change, he's the one that has to do it. We'll talk to Bill Shaker.
Well, you have Ray Montgomery as their bench coach, and you have Phil Nevin as their third base coach. So maybe somebody there is the guy that takes them for the rest of the season. Who knows? There's not a lot of just great managers sitting out there waiting for a job.
100% right.
What about Mark DeRosa? What about Mark DeRosa? How about the Angels talk to Mark DeRosa if Joe Maddon's not going to be there? Mark DeRosa needs a chance.
I think he does, but I don't think you bring in a guy who's never managed a day in his life, and youth baseball, Mark, down in Atlanta doesn't count. I don't think you can bring in a guy who's never managed in his life and make him the interim skipper on a team that's in a free fall for his first job. I don't think you got to bring somebody in there who can sort of settle everybody down with a little experience. But it's interesting. It's good food for thought. You'll continue that conversation here in a minute.
In spite of what's going on, our work is spectacular. Their prep is great. It's just not showing up. And that's as simple as that. That's how I look at things. I only get upset if I'm with a group of people I thought didn't care. And that's when you get upset. But I'm not seeing that at all. And you just got to fight through it. All these stimuli impetus that's going on right here, it's happened before. It's not the first time. The difference is how you get through it. And for me, it's more of it's got to be an organic moment. You're just not going to, just almost have to will it through sometimes too. We got to get the big hit when it's necessary. We got to make the big pitch when it's necessary. And then you got to come out the other side. Again, there's no secret to how you get out of this other than just staying with it, working at it, supporting one another. And then finally you do. And that's it. That's the only thing I know, and I've done it before.
The one thing Joe Maddon has not done before is ever been mired in a 12-game losing streak. That was up until yesterday. The Angels right in the middle of the longest losing streak in Major League Baseball. We're joined now by Bill Shaken, baseball writer for the Los Angeles Times. And Bill, thanks for taking a few moments to be with us. Something's got to give in Anaheim. What is it?
Probably just a win, whether it's, somebody hitting a big home run late in the game or somebody pitching deep into a game. The Angels haven't done much of either. You look at the last couple weeks, they're last in the majors in earned run average. Half their lineup is under 200. 3 guys are on the injured list. But it's a team that 2 weeks ago was 10 games over 500. So I think the question for the Angels is this just 2 really ugly weeks, or is the talent level over the last 2 weeks more representative than what they saw in the first 6?
This is a team, Bill, you know better than everybody, as you cover them on a daily basis, that relies heavily on the long ball. We talked about it earlier in the show. 68 so far this season. That's 5th most in the majors, but they have not hit a home run in their last 6 games. In fact, the last time Renfroe had the home run off of Jordan Montgomery of the Yankees. Are they relying on that too much? I mean, should we implement a little bit of small ball just to get something going? Move a guy over, lay a bunt down, try something different.
That would be great if the guys were getting on base, but they're struggling to do that as well. The one guy everybody points to, because he's a 3-time MVP, is Mike Trout, and he's hitting 114 over this 12-game losing streak. And obviously you can't lay everything on him, but if you say, okay, well, Trout and Ohtani are your stars, they're the guys that are going to lead us out of this. Ohtani's under 200 as well. And as I mentioned, Rendon is on the injured list. Taylor Ward is on the injured list. David Fletcher's on the injured list. And that margin for error apparently is what's sinking the Angels right now offensively.
What makes Mike Trout great is that he's not going to stay in this slump for very long. We know that Mike Trout is going to be okay. You also mentioned Taylor Ward on the injured list with the hamstring issue. So for lack of a better phrase, the offense of the Angels is hamstrung even more with Ward on it. Is he more valuable to this team than perhaps we gave him credit for?
Absolutely. Remember, at the start of the season, the Angels had Justin Upton on their roster. They're already going to pay him either way, and they cut him. And we all thought, okay, Brandon Marsh and Joe Adell are going to need some time. Marsh has been up the whole season and played fairly well. Adell was up, down, and is now back up. But the guy the Angels really wanted the playing time for was Taylor Ward. And at the point where he had enough at-bats to qualify, he was leading the major leagues in OPS. But he's hurt. He came back. Now he's hurt again. And certainly he's a much greater part of the Angels offense than I think anybody had planned on him being at this point in his career.
Bill, Shohei Ohtani, of course, a dynamic player. We get it. Very unique. We've never seen this type of person in our generation. Of course, people comparing him to Babe Ruth doing it way back in the day. Just ask Chris Russo. But Shohei Ohtani slashing 192 in his last 8 games. He's also not hitting well. He's not hitting well. He's not pitching well. Is it time to worry about him?
I don't know about worry as much as appreciate that when we were all enjoying the show, pardon the pun, last year, there's a reason why this hasn't been done in 100 years. It's really hard. Shohei had a couple seasons when he first came up where there were still people asking, okay, is he going to have to pick hitting or pitching? And He had an amazing season last year. He's playing a lot more this year than he ever has. The Angels have always been careful to give him a lot of time off. And this year he said, I don't want it. Maybe that's something they do look into here in the second half of the season gets rolling.
9 earned runs and 9 innings pitched. He's given up 5 long balls. There was conversation perhaps he was tipping pitches. What more can you tell us about that?
Just that Joe Maddon thought he might have been. Shohei thought he wasn't. Of course, they've gone over the tape since then. So whatever they found, they'll, of course, hope to apply in his next start. And I should say, as much as we talk about the front of the Angels rotation, very early in the season, everybody had talked about how great the rebuilt bullpen was. Raisel Iglesias, the closer, had been re-signed. Aaron Loop and Ryan Tepera came in on big dollar contracts as setup guys. And as great as they were over the past 6 weeks, the last couple weeks, they've been in a slump just like everybody else, culminating in Iglesias giving up that game-time grand slam to Bryce Harper on Sunday.
I think the one question everybody wants to know, Bill, and I'll conclude our interview with this, is Joe Maddon on the hot seat? Will he make it to the All-Star break? And if so, where do you go from him?
I don't know that the seat is terribly cold at this point. I don't know that it's scorching either, because I think, to your point, Alana, the question is, if you do want to make a move with Joe Maddon, who was hired by the owner, remember, not by the general manager, and who is still in the last year of his contract, there's no veteran bench coach there waiting to take over. The bench coach is a guy who's never managed in the major leagues or minor leagues and was primarily a scout in his entire career until this year. So that probably is not going to be your most defensible move if you want to make it and you're the Angels. They do have guys on their staff who have managed in the minor leagues, a couple guys in the front office who have managed in the majors. It's not like you can't get somebody as a replacement, but the question ultimately is Joe Maddon doing something over these 2 weeks that somehow he didn't do over the first 6 weeks when the Angels were winning? And I'm not sure you have an answer to that when you look at the schedule. Now, after the Angels get through with the Red Sox, the team they're playing this week, the Mets come in, and then the Dodgers. So that's probably not a time you're going to set a new person up for success. But after that, the series and the schedule gets a little bit softer, and maybe you either A, see how the team responds to that, or B, decide that's the time to do something.
All right. No team, Bill Shaken, has ever made the postseason in the same year in which they lost 12 straight games. I hope I am wrong. I would like to see the Angels go to the postseason this year. We thought that they had the pieces to do it. Hopefully they do. Bill Shaken of the Los Angeles Times, covering the Angels on the daily. We appreciate your help.
Thank you.